very good evening to all and welcome to this session on bridging the gap between urban and rural education. And we have three wonderful ladies and from various different regions and backgrounds. Veena, who's going to be the moderator of this panel discussion. She's a co-founder of Touch a Life Foundation, and she's also the global chair for TAL Scouts, a global youth social innovation program focused on empowering youth to make social impact through entrepreneurship, advocacy, and philanthropy. Veena is also the founder and CEO of Enigma Corporation, a fintech company focused on global payments and receivables. She's a Silicon Valley-based tech entrepreneur with over 25 years of experience. She has won several innovation and entrepreneurship awards for her thought leadership, artificial intelligence in finance. And she's a Forbes Technology Council contributor and also a visiting faculty at University of California, Davis, UC Davis. She has a bachelor's in engineering from Osmania, and welcome to Hyderabad. You're from Hyderabad, and master's from Santa Clara in the US. From this, ma'am, please take it forward and let's have a great session. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Raj. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. You always, it looks like...
you are on mute, and Audrey, you're also on mute, just so you guys know.
I am not...
No, you're okay. I was telling Geeta and Audrey that you guys were in mute. Please go ahead.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Thank you so much, Raj. It's always a pleasure and connecting with you and Ty. And thank you so much for having us over here. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to all our viewers, around the globe. It's such a wonderful to see 30,000 participants participating in this Thai Sustainability Summit. It's a wonderful to see so many joining together to look at how to make impact to the world. And today I am honored to share the stage here with me with wonderful people, who are making some tremendous social impact. First and foremost, joining here with me, Padma Shri Geeta Dharamarajan. I'm humbled and honored to stage the panel with, Mrs. Geeta. Padma Shri Geeta Dharamarajan, a quick introduction of her. She started a Profit for All social organization called Katha and has headed it since 1988. She has been awarded the Padma Shri in 2012, fourth highest recognition in India for her work in the literature and the education section. And what does Katha do? Katha is a unique model and it seamlessly connects grassroots work with children living in underserved communities with books and reading. And they have a very single powerful idea that children learn through stories and storytelling, and they have executed this model, with enormous success and brought in over 100,000, 1 lakh children under this umbrella. So I will let Mrs. Geeta speak to us a little more about that, when we start the sessions. Welcome to the panel, Mrs. Padma Shri Geeta Dharamarajan. Thank you so much. Also here with me is Audrey Selian. Audrey currently serves as a director of the Artha initiative associated with Rianta Capital Zurich, and is a member and an advisor to the Hallorian Philanthropists. She has been active in impact investing, and she's the founder of digital platform arthaplatform.com. And it's an online investment platform and is designed to tackle the economies of due diligence around high impact social, small scale SMEs, SGBs. She currently serves as a trustee for several nonprofit organizations and sits on the board of a number of profit and nonprofit organizations. She holds a PhD in technology, policy, and development studies from the Fletcher School or at Tufts University. Welcome, Audrey. It's so wonderful to have you in the session. And I also have here with me joining, Dr. Suresh Kumar. Dr. Suresh Kumar, comes from, the, US, and he is a serial entrepreneur, a professor, a startup ecosystem builder, angel investor, and a dad, a proud dad. And he has a deep passion for leadership and entrepreneurship. His startup teams have been a recipient of several awards, including the Ronald Reagan Gold Medal, the US Blue Ribbon Award, US Asian American Chamber Fast 50 Firm Award, Deloitte Fast 50 Awards, and several different awards. He has been a mentor, a professor, and an entrepreneur, building the ecosystem. So very welcome to you, Dr. Suresh Kumar.
Glad to be here.
Suresh, thanks for being on the panel.
Hi, Raj. Good to meet you.
Okay.
So it's wonderful to have all of you over here. And I think, today's topic brings all of us together: bridging educational gaps through technology, urban and rural students. How do we bridge the gap? So that's the topic of the day. And it's wonderful to see, people, coming in from different parts of the world. So before I dive into this particular topic, I'd like to, again, welcome each one of you. And if you can, give a very quick introduction about, the work that you're doing in the education sector, and, the type of segment that you're addressing. Are you addressing the primary education, the middle school, or the secondary school education, or higher education, youth, etc.? So appreciate if you can, give a quick introduction, around, the work that you're doing. So over to you, starting with you, Mrs. Geeta.
Okay. I started Katha in 1988, and we have been working with children and in the literacy to literature continuum. We work with children in preschool, primary school, and going up to high school. We publish for everyone, including for college students. And the whole idea is to create a world which is able to give equal quality education to all children. And we believe that if we can start with smaller children in the, say, age group of 4 to about 10, which is the primary school age and the preschool age, we believe that, our country and the children, their families, the communities will be able to grow and will be upwardly mobile. And that is the main reason why Katha works with them, and we bend over backwards to see that children can get the best quality education. Today, we work with about 100,000 children, and they're across the country. And we work with tribal children, Adivasi children in the fishing communities, and those who live in the forest areas. The whole idea is to create curriculums for them. Thank you. I think I've been taking a lot of time.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think it's so good to see that you're working at such a grassroots level, going to tribal villages and addressing, the so-called, extreme poverty, underserved communities, and bringing out education to them. So fabulous, remarkable work, Mrs. Geeta. So great. Audrey, I'd love to hear, which part of the world you're joining us from, and the kind of work that you're doing.
Thank you very much, Veena. It's such an honor and pleasure to be here, particularly in the presence of Ms. Geeta and with Suresh. My role at Artha Impact at Rianta Capital is one that is a few degrees removed from the really sleeves rolled up hard work at the grassroots, to be sure. So I've, for the last 15 years, been inside this dedicated impact investing initiative focused on India focused on identifying social enterprise interventions that are providing needed products and services to underserved communities. So we expressly invest on behalf of the Singh Family Trust into such businesses. And we're one of many, many such players. It's quite a dynamic and vibrant ecosystem today of such socially motivated, mission-driven investors. And really, I mean, I'm based in Switzerland. That's where I'm calling in from. For many years, really all we've been able to focus on is deployment of capital into, great companies that we've been able to diligence through our partners who are, intrinsic to our process and who are called Mentera Ventures. Mentera is a for-profit investment spin-out of Vilgrow, which many of you will know as one of the oldest social enterprise incubators in India, based between Chennai and Bangalore and a number of other places today. So that is our positioning. I'm happy to share a little bit about some of the interventions that we've been involved in financing that are directly related to the education sphere. And once again, thank you for including me today.
Thank you, Audrey. Such a pleasure to have you here, and very good to see that you are encouraging innovations and encouraging the impact going into the underserved communities. So pleasure having you here. Dr. Suresh, over to you.
All right, thanks, Veena. Good to meet with you, Gita and Audrey. I look forward to learning some good ideas from you guys. Also, thanks to TIE Global and TIE Hyderabad for organizing this, I think, very important segment. So my work is primarily, I've been a practitioner for many years. I've been a serial entrepreneur for almost 20 years, but last 3 years, I've been more involved in academics. And of late, last about a year, I've been more involved at the policy level, working closely with the Biden administration, especially with their Build Back Better agenda, which essentially is a great opportunity to level the playing field, especially in underrepresented communities, which in the US, there's just a lot of them. So therefore, my focus has been in building more inclusive ecosystems. Fortunately, now funding is available to do that. So I've been kind of helping secure these grants for certain communities at the state and local level and helping build these ecosystems. Thank you.
Very nice to hear, Dr. Suresh. It's good to see that you are right at the intersection of youth, social entrepreneurship, and government and investing partners. That's a very powerful combination to get impact done in a big major way. So very good to see that. So welcome to the panel. And a quick introduction about again what we are doing at Touch a Life Foundation. Again, my background, I'm a tech entrepreneur coming in from Silicon Valley, and I run a company called Emagia. We're a fintech company focused around digital payments, digital finance. I am also a co-founder of a foundation called Touch a Life Foundation, which we started in 2012, focused around bringing a digital platform to connect people who need something to people who can give something. We call ourselves as a Uber of kindness. So there's an app called Tal Giving, where you can from anywhere in the world, you can ask for help, and people from anywhere in the world can crowdsource the help. It can be funding, cash, donation, or services. So on that particular platform, we have a program called TAL Scouts, focused primarily around youth social innovation. And we encourage youth to look around for opportunities to create social impact. We educate them on SDGs, and we invite them to work with us, and we nurture them on an social innovation framework, and have them submit business ideas as well as advocacy ideas on that particular platform. So today we have about 4,000 children around the world, and we're connecting to several schools. And these children, amazingly, are already creating a lot of impact, serving their own local, communities, helping homeless students, helping the shelters, the food banks, as well as, addressing, several innovative ideas of, addressing hunger or poverty or pollution and others. So it's an exciting, time for me to work with some of these youngsters and take this digital platform for innovation to different parts of the world. So we're excited to work with that. So with that as the background, I think it looks like we're all addressing the entire spectrum. Mrs. Geeta addressing the primary and the and the elementary education segment, and Dr. Suresh, you're addressing the higher education and the college level education. Likewise, myself with the TAL Scouts, we're addressing the youth, high school and undergrad youth for social innovation, and of course Audrey, investing in social impact ideas. So it's a good spectrum that we are all covering. So with that as a background, one of the things that I would again like to kick off from a discussion perspective, as we all know, the United Nations social sustainable development goals. United Nations has 17 sustainable development goals that we are all talking about today in Thai Sustainability Summit, right? And these sustainable development goals, are goals for 2030, and we're all looking at how do we, reach certain targets of the goals. And goal number 4, as we all know, is quality education. And the target for the quality education, or the goal for this quality education, SDG, is ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all, right? So primarily bringing education to all. Education is, no longer, it should be a privilege, it should be a right, it should be, a basic need, and should be made accessible to one and all, across the world, right? So that is, the basic, premise that, we're all looking at in terms of how do we support, that particular segment, right? So in that context, I'd like to, again, pose a question to the panel, from a addressable market perspective. Again, all of these different segments, we have about 1.6 billion youth around the world, and several in low-income areas, and several to be in developing countries. What do you see as some of the challenges that are out there happening, and especially over the last 1 year? We have seen with COVID-19 hitting, the education gap between people who are able to connect to the infrastructure and people who are not able to connect to the infrastructure. The education gap has widened quite a bit. And I'd like to pose a question to the to all of you. What do you see as challenges, and how are some of these challenges being highlighted today in the global community?
Maybe I can take a shot at getting started. Good
Sure.
question, Veena. what I think, and I'm just looking at it from the perspective of US and entrepreneurship education. So as you know, entrepreneurship education was mostly limited to certain pockets, usually large cities and the two coasts. Now, as a result of COVID, what we have seen happen is that there's been a massive migration of skilled people from the big cities, from the New York City, DC, San Francisco, Los Angeles areas into more rural communities, right? Because they can work remotely and be almost as productive. Now, you can argue whether they're 100% productive or a little bit less, but bottom line is they can do more or less their work, especially if you're a technology worker, using. And what we found out is that the modern technologies are really robust. They have met the challenge in terms of delivering on that remote education piece. So I think now we have a great opportunity, especially in the US, which is what I am looking into quite intimately, is that how do we leverage this skilled people who are now going from a big city to a rural city to help maybe build the ecosystem further, because they come with a lot of skills, knowledge. They also come with a good understanding of the business and commercial aspects of any product or service. So, and they have, some of them also have startup skills, right? So how do we take that and leverage the virtual media possibilities to build virtual ecosystems where they can actually participate and help grow local entrepreneurs who may not have had that access before. So I look at COVID as, of course, a challenge, but also an opportunity where if we can integrate this talent coming in from big cities and leverage them to kind of plug them into that rural small school, small college, or a community college where they can go in, and if not physically, in most instances, they can definitely do it virtually, right? Just by being in the classroom. So we can, bottom line is we can bring in these professionals into a classroom atmosphere much more easier than what was possible before. So I see that as a great opportunity. We are starting to use that effectively here in the US. And I would kind of encourage that to be a global trend, which we really should utilize right now.
You're absolutely right, Dr. Suresh. And the digital technologies today have proven themselves that they are able to connect people from anywhere in the world. So that's an absolute plus. And that's where people who are able to connect now has access to much larger platform and forum of people to help them. And very similarly, what you're doing on the TAL Scouts, program, what we do is have this digital platform. Any child, even sitting in a rural village in India or anywhere in the United States or UK or Australia, can come on to our particular platform. And today we have 4,000 children coming from different parts of the world, and they are able to learn the entrepreneurial framework. They're able to learn some of these SDGs and start thinking about ideas on that. That could not have been possible prior to COVID, where obviously I think digital is has accelerated to expand and stabilize, and today there are a lot of them connecting. But the fundamental premise of all of this is connectivity. There are still a lot of areas that do not have connectivity, and in fact one of the negative effect of COVID-19, especially on the children under the in the primary and the secondary, was hard hit. While the youth have the access, while the youth is having the connectivity, there is still a large portion the primary and under in the secondary market that has taken a major hit. In fact, UN says that we have stepped back 20 years below in the primary school education. So love to hear from, Mrs. Geeta on, what impact has COVID taken in those communities?
I think when I hear Suresh and I hear you, I think it's another world that you're talking about. Where is the connectivity? Where are the devices? Where are the children who, can access this? Where are the colleges which have children who can, pick up the skills? In every single college, what I'm hearing from professors is that, I wish the primary schools will do a better job so that, when they come to college, the children are able to at least participate in what is happening. Many colleges have tried to get English in, and the COVID has just made things worse. We don't have proper books. I mean, there's so much to be done in India, which is true of all Asian countries, probably, the ASEAN countries. So I think that, we need to turn the things over, maybe turn them, upside down to see what's really happening. I want to tell you about, a village that we work in Morai. It is near Tiruvallur district in Tamil Nadu. The children are living in homes which have no thatch. There is nothing. They don't own the land. They don't own anything. And they pick up any plastic that is available and any thatch which is available, they put it on, and that is where they live. They have one light for the whole community, which has about 600 families. And that light comes on and goes off. And when it goes off, the snakes come. And every other month, they have children and they have women who are bitten by snakes because they have to go into the forest to do their business. The school is 1.5 kilometers, but if they go through the forest, they can reach the school. The school has been closed. They don't have, I can't even think about devices, I'm wondering, which world are we looking at over here, and how do we bridge that, the first world and the south of the south in which we all live. It's not even the south, I think it's south of the south in which we are living. And when you're looking at Adivasi education, you're looking at, education of children even in urban slums. We did a survey of about 10,000 families in the NCR region. And 17% of them have smartphones, 17%. When the COVID came, we immediately made books, and we made, what we call the happiness bag. And we gave books to 16,000 children who were the ones that we could reach out to. So we gave these books, the happiness bags, to them with, worksheets and, things that they could do. We had a little, pen drive in which we had put stuff, and, some of them had TVs, which were, smart TVs. So they could put this and look at the pictures, so they could have visual education. We've tried so many things. We've trained our teachers. We've trained the government teachers to teach, through digital means. But after all this, where are our children today? Not even 75% have come back after the COVID. Not even 75%. And we have 300 million children. That's the population of the US, I think, if I'm not mistaken. 300 million children in our schools today, and 50% of them cannot read. And now probably it's 80% who cannot read. What is the future? Is India going to depend only on people who know English and go into the English medium schools, which have the devices, which have everything? Where is equality and where is equal quality education? So I think, we are looking at a very, very promising picture over here. You had started with that, Veena, and I think what we have is a land of opportunities. This is the land of milk and honey, not the US, I think. This is where I think we can come, because you can work with children. Their minds are so smart. It doesn't matter where they live, whether they are living in, little villages or they are living in cities. The poor are living denied and neglected lives. And if we can come together in this session, and we as the people of this world, and we as people, the diaspora, Indian diaspora, also I would like to appeal to, I think, work with any non-profit which is working in India. We can, any area where we can work, and let us see whether, the same thing, Suresh, that you're talking about in the US can happen in India. If we can make it happen, I think it's not just for India. We have the greatest number of children. They are going to be the future. We never had the mobile phone in 2020, and in 2000. 2005, we got all our mobile phones. And now we are training our children. Where is the creativity for them? It's you people who can come in and give them that, that sense of curiosity and creativity and critical thinking, and, get them to move from, I think it was, Golda Meir who said, maybe the people who are living in developed worlds took 100 years to reach from where they are to. Can we do a hop, skip, and a quantum leap and do it in less than 100 years? Can we? We have a goal, but the UN has been shifting its goal for God knows how long. And every time we find that, we are backward. Now we've been told that we missed our deadline and it's going to be 50 years before we can get universal primary education for India. 50 years, how many generations of children is that? And if you think of, the number of people who are kind-hearted, who are compassionate in India, it's enormous. We are blessed with nonprofits. We are blessed with people who can do things. So, the 300 million challenge that we have now is where all of us like-minded people are coming together and giving whatever we can. And we have children across the country who are coming back and getting some kind of quality learning. I would say learning, and maybe not schooling, but learning, which is the more exciting part of education. So yeah, I think Suresh and Veena, we want you with you. And as soon as I hear Audrey, I want Audrey with us. We work in Chennai also, Audrey. Thank you.
I'll chime in, and that's a hard act to follow, Gita, what you said and how you presented the reality, the searing reality of what we're talking about. For years, 20 years ago, we were talking about digital divide and all of these different topics, especially those of us learning about technology at the time. And we realized that actually we still are worlds apart in the way that workflows, practical mechanics, logistics of how various kinds of development work happens are still incredibly disconnected. So, I mean, to my mind, you had asked Veena about a bit the size of the addressable market, I think, and I think there's over 400,000 private schools in K through 12 in India. It's absolutely enormous. I think that there's a vastly fragmented series of financing streams that are hitting some of these schools, absorbed by some of these schools. And it's a mix of public and philanthropy and private, because obviously the affordable private model, the affordable private school model, is one that a lot of mission-driven investors have twigged on. They've understood, oh, there's something really interesting there. And so the question is, when let's say there are 10 of the most appropriate configurations that are able to use, real, just basic materials that kids need to have a stimulating environment. We're not talking about smart tablets and phones. When we find out that, there's not just 10, it's India. I mean, India is the land of genius and creativity. There are thousands of these incredible models out there, but from the financing perspective, from those who profess to be driven by mission or who have development finance in their mandates, how on earth are they to find and determine which models to elevate? And when those models are elevated, who's paying the rewards of successful scaling? And unfortunately, I think we still have a little bit of a gap in terms of the way that, from a systems perspective, we are able to have the large institutions and possibly even public institutions able to reward proper scale outs, to reward the collaborations between investors and NGOs, and all those lines are blurring today. The lines between public and private, and with very good reason, because none of these in their silos are able to actually move the needle. And if we're going to see this wave that lifts all the boats, which I think is what Gita refers to, the way that the money flows, the whole decision-making process of that allocation, the discovery and the diligence that has to happen, all of this has to be held in places. I'm not saying open domain, I'm not saying online on Google, but all of this needs to somehow be visible, because if it's not visible, we can't act. And if we can't act in concert, we're going to wait 5 generations with countless lost genius minds who are not going to be able to surface. So I'm just stating the obvious. I'm not saying anything other than just echoing what I've heard. But in the mechanical, practical terms of the financing community, we need to have a different way of aggregating, elevating, and collaborating. So I'll just stop there for now.
Sure.
Veena,
That's
can I just add a quick, maybe I'm just taking off from where Audrey left and trying to take the challenge that Gita has thrown on us. And I would like to maybe give an example of what has worked and a program that I've seen work in the US, right? Now the money is quite, just to make it simplified, it is in 2 pots. One pot is the corporate world, right? The successful corporations have the money. Second is the government, state, federal, etc. They have the money, right? So we need to be able to access that money to flow through those communities that Gita mentioned, right? People who don't have a light, forget devices, don't have a light and have to walk through the forest at night, etc. And we have to find some compelling solutions to that. I'll give you an example of what I've seen work. There is a program that was run by MIT, right, one of the elite institutions, but it was funded by Biogen, and they addressed a few rural communities in the US. Now, again, I don't want to make a comparison between the US rural community and India, may be different, but essentially these were kids from very disadvantaged backgrounds who were not even having devices. So it is the corporate that funded devices for all of them. There's about 500 children in this program. They bought them tablets, and Biogen gave the money for that. They also gave the syllabus in terms of education and biology, leading them that the objective was to lead them to a biotech or thinking in terms of STEM careers, etc. These are high school kids. So getting them ready for biology and biotech, eventually getting in that direction. So the bottom line is the model is to get a corporate that may have a vested interest in promoting their science or their area of expertise, but they're willing to give the dollars, right? And an education institution that is an elite one like MIT willing to put in the time, effort to make this happen, and all bought together by technology. So this 400 students over a period of 3 months went through a program where for the first time they used devices, they were able to connect in and take advantage of this. I think a model along these lines would really serve India. Now, where can TIE play a role is, can we be that moderators? Because frankly, corporations would not come to rural India by themselves, right? We may have to go and talk to them. So if I am, for example, privileged to work for a TCS or HCL, etc., can I go to the corporate social responsibility team and tell them, I would like you to do X for this particular community. How can we make it happen? So I think if we can facilitate that conversation, I think we can make that money flow down into where it really is needed.
And I think, Suresh, sorry, can I butt in here?
Go ahead. Absolutely.
Suresh, there are 2 things here. As we all know, there's no trickle down at all. So I think we need to get rid of that trickle down theory, as many people have done. And 2, the dollar goes very, very far in India. I mean, we can manage with so little over here to manage to give. And the third point is a curriculum and a way of teaching is something that we have here, which probably will not need an American model to be brought into India, because we are looking at Shravana Shakti, or the way in which children listen and they learn from listening. We are by and large an oral tradition over here, and oral traditions are not able to move as fast into the written word. So if we can jump that written word and we can say that the oral tradition of the past, where you valorize knowledge and not the written word, if we can do that, then I think we have a way of reaching not 400 children, but maybe 400 million children, because actually we have 400 million children who are, many of them not in school. So that would be probably something that I would like to talk to you offline.
Sure, absolutely. So, Audrey, you had a point that you wanted
sorry,
to...
I'm going to just continue this tradition of adding on to
this is a discussion.
Sorry,
So let's have it a discussion. Absolutely. No, please. This is a discussion. Let's keep it a nice flowing discussion. So please feel free to join in. So
Thank you. My point is a very quick one. It's in response to Suresh's earlier observations, which I found very important. It's just that, of course, the corporations and organizations, big institutions and organizations must play a role. I would just posit that we're way past the point where it's about CSR programming of corporates. We are investors in a skills training business that has helped so Leap Skills has been spinning out an app that focuses on, it's called Skiller, and they're focusing on providing various types of vocational readiness and preparation for young people. And I remember when we saw their information, their materials, this one striking statistic: 95% of organizations admit to investing in the wrong people every year. And 87% of those managers believe that they would be facing a skills gap or some sort of problem with their human resources in the next 5 years. And 66% of them said that they felt their teams were unfit to cope with the future of work, with the disruptions that would inevitably come. These corporates, these companies have every reason to integrate investment and partnership in the very core of their models. This isn't some philanthropy feel good. It's tended to be, but I think that's part of the realization and the shift. India's future workforce, the brilliance of it, which is there now, for it to propagate depends on it. And again, it's as though, there's still a disconnect there as well. And so perhaps that's what the strength of the Thai network can bring, is a few willing, active, engaged parties who are willing to come together and say, on a particular set of skills, we're going to think like the Native Americans do, or the indigenous communities. I've been to an indigenous social entrepreneurship conference years ago, and what struck me about what they said was everything they do is thinking about the 7 generations behind them and the 7 generations ahead of them. So maybe some of these folks might be willing to take
sustainability.
A long view.
Yeah. That's a true sustainability model, right? Back 7 generations and front 7 generations. So that's a very good one. And I think all of you brought up a very important point, that how can we create the impact? And again, Dr. Suresh, I think one of the big things I like to pick up from your point is bringing the power of partnerships, right? How do we bring large corporates? How do we bring academic institutions and government policies to be able to make a significant impact? And I see a tremendous opportunity to do that. Today, if you look at the digital infrastructure companies, you can even for example, whether it's a Google or Apple or Facebook and Amazon, they're all again multi-billion-dollar companies sitting on a lot of cash. They're also investing big time in India and establishing several of their campuses out in India. And we hear, hey, Amazon has just set up a new center, with 30,000 new jobs or 40,000 new jobs. And if we were able to take that equation and say, for every new job you create in India, maybe if you can have, as take up a CSR kind of a program, have every child educated in India for every job, right? So if we are able to put a program where we bring some of these corporates also into how they can expand their digital capabilities into, the most underserved communities, established connectivity, and maybe have each one of these employees as part of this CSR program 1 hour, to educate or mentor, a child in remote places. That itself can create a lot of, connectivity. So I really like the example that you talked about on the MIT, where they brought in like 400 students. This is we can absolutely do a similar kind of a model of, connecting people, in these digital companies who understand, the advantage of digital, to go, mentor and connect, people in these extreme underserved communities.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gita.
No. I just love what Suresh you've been saying, and what Audrey said about, it's way past the time for CSR, and we need to do some serious thinking about, why and how we should invest, and what Veena said. So I just wanted to say that, please.
So I just wanted to add that it was a Thai company called Startup Tribes, actually part of the Thai University program, that provided the platform for this program to happen. So this is a good example of, and that same company, and I am a mentor to them, we went and had a meeting with Biogen, and frankly, it was not a heavy lift. We just told them that this is actually going to help you with respect to many of the goals that you have, and you're already having budget allocated to your CSR, which is sitting pretty much not doing much. So how do we use that money allocated to this? Here is a platform, and here is a bunch of mentors from Thai and other organizations who's willing to give their time free, right? So how can we make this come together? I think Thai can play an important role, but I think it is not a good idea to wait for trickle down or government money to come down. It may happen in the US, but I'm not sure if it'll happen in other countries. So therefore, I think corporates would be the best bet to get a kickstart to a program like this.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. There's a lot of money with corporations, and today they're expanding, their operations all over the place. And I think if they are able to, take that, CSR money, put that into initiatives and encourage, people to connect, that will be great. And that is where I think, also nonprofits, like each one of us, like what Katha is doing, what TAL Scouts, what we are doing, we are encouraging, these, the CSRs, as well as we are encouraging youth, to kind of, come up and support this. A quick example, what a small project, our TAL Scouts have done recently. This was a small experiment out in Dallas, where, during COVID, a big group of people did not have devices to connect. And we were looking at the Dallas ISD, where, there were, a few hundred, students, who did not have the devices. So our, TAL Scouts youth, high schoolers, these all, 10, 15, high schoolers, came together, reached out to a few corporations, and got those recycled, devices, right? A lot of times, companies, give out, or they want to upgrade and move on to new things. So they collected about, 80 to 90 devices and went and donated to the local, homeless children. So there can be at a grassroots level where each one of the people can make that sort of a, connectivity. First of all, bring connectivity, right? Once you bring connectivity, then the rest of the education now with digital, I think, can be a lot more. So with that, again, a quick question around what do you see as a role of, government, and what do you think, how do you think Thai and government can work together to create, some some momentum in the social impact area for education. We have about 6 minutes, and please, go around, across the panel.
Maybe I can start on this one. Oh,
yes,
sorry, Geeta,
Audrey.
please.
No, Audrey, please start. Please start.
No, my comment is very quick. It's in reaction as well to the prior comments, and now to Veena's question about the role of government. My sense is that government must be the grease in the wheels to help and incentivize businesses to reach their full potentials, to be the agents of change that they can be. I've been involved in this past year and a half with co-editing a volume called The Business of Building a Better World, and essentially it's contributed to by thought leaders and CEOs and practitioners. We just edited. I mean, it's these incredible minds came together. Raj Sisodia, John Elkington, Jed Emerson, and Gillian Marcel. It's so many contributors, all of whom are focused on the new theory of the business. Business in some country and political contexts is kind of vilified a bit. It's the idea that it's just about being driven by profit motive. In fact, there are so many incredibly enlightened business leaders who are trying to make forays and who are that much more powerful for having balance sheets and profit P&Ls that can help them drive their own progress. I think the role of government is to incentivize, facilitate, clear the decks, and then, support, co-invest, match, but let the businesses do their work. And it's not just about those businesses. I think there's a tremendous trove of knowledge that's held by especially in India, the decades-long traditions of nonprofit thinking and civil society organizations. And my sense is there needs to be a way to pay for the intellectual property, the knowledge, the sort of sleeves rolled up groundedness of the civil society organizations as essentially the IP that fuels the business models. Because it's one thing is clear, without these models that really scale, that sustain, and that are able to cover their own costs, how are we going to reach these many kids, especially in rural areas where they're living under thatch and plastic, and there's no way that no one can do it alone.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
I totally agree. Veena, if I may just add a little bit to what Audrey and everyone has said. I think that, when you talk about private and public partnerships, we leave out the people. And the people are very, very important. It has to be private thing and, the people. It should be a triple P over there or a 4P over there, because the partnership comes in as the 4th P, I think. Yes. And that is very important, because governments need to be, I got the word driven in my mind, but not driven. I think they have to be, need to realize what is a great need, because they have so many things in front of them and sometimes they may forget, and I can understand why they can forget. But we, the people, have to make governments work. And that is one of the main things. All the things that Audrey said, absolutely, that is the role of government. But unless we have the people helping them to work, I think we may not have the spreading out of the goodies as we would like to have for equal quality learning opportunities. Thank you.
So, Geeta, I completely agree. Maybe a good example would be if the change had not happened last November in the US, all that you're seeing today in terms of money flowing down from the federal government level to the local level would never have happened, right? So it happened because people got involved. We had a record turnout in the midst of a pandemic last year. And the result of that was that there's a change in government, right, at all levels, the Senate, the president, etc. And that is now resulting. So perhaps India can also follow that example of electing people who are champions of change, who would work with corporations to get that money down, right? So I think it is important to people to get involved in making sure that the elected officials are the right ones who kind of believe in this message. So therefore, I think that
People like
is,
you,
is a little
Suresh.
bit of a gap that needs to be filled.
Yes,
Yeah.
we
I'm
need
sorry.
people like you.
So I agree with you, Dr. Suresh. I think there is a huge opportunity for government to leverage corporations, and especially the digital corporations, can advance education in a great way. So the way the government, can, put the agenda on the SDG, first of all, for them to kind of put the goals on education and bring in the partnerships from the corporations is a very critical component. And also at the grassroots level, every one of the, each one, every individual, as well as especially the youth, that they are in this, digital age right now. And if we are able to educate the youth that they can take this and connect, to underserved communities in a big way, we can advance this digital agenda. So that's where, again, a lot of, ideas of how, someone, sitting in from California can be a mentor for someone in a rural, Tamil Nadu village, right? So we have to encourage these kind of partnerships and encourage youth to come up with, volunteer, serve, and, see how, they can, uplift, children around the world, right? So, so that's where I very strongly believe that we have a power within ourselves, and we can also have, government playing a role, especially, from a message, to government is there are basic facilities in schools that are lacking today. Again, there are a lot of statistics around basic drinking water not available, basic, soap, that is not available, or, like a hand washing, especially during the COVID, or, basic food facilities not available. So every, region, if they can take up these SDGs as the basic thing and address that, and for digital, if they're able to, tie up with these large corporations today that are having, hordes of cash, and see how they can, connect all of these villages and systems, we can have a better world, go forward. So keep, flowing, some of these innovative ideas. And as we come up to the end of the segment, I would like to thank all of you to, participating here, who joined us, for this wonderful session. And Dr. Suresh, Mrs. Geeta, and Audrey, such a pleasure having you. And, it's a wonderful, session. And it's a big topic, a lot of open questions, a lot of open answers. So please keep your ideas flowing, and let's have this more as a start of the discussion forum. And we'd love to see Thai and all of us in, Thai contributing in various different ways. Let's go make an impact.
Thank you, all of you, and lovely meeting you, Suresh and Audrey. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you so
We'll
much.
be in touch. I think we should continue this discussion, though it is incomplete. So therefore, maybe at least via email we can do so. And how do we elevate this up to the highest level of TAI so that there is an initiative that really flows down and we can implement something maybe hopefully over the next year or so?
Absolutely. Any questions from the audience? We'll be happy to take questions from the audience.
Veena, I need to humbly request, because we have the entire next panel ready, and Sudha, who's the moderator, already brought onto here. So I would have to respectfully ask that if there are questions, we'll try to create the group and post it, and happy to be more interacting with you guys on the WhatsApp, and then we can spread that message in class.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you all.